Right, this is my ER-6N, and here are 10 things that I don't like so much about it. So it's a fairly basic bike, and this is quite an old model, so things have moved on since this, but there's no fuel gauge on it, so you have to rely on the low fuel indicator. And that's not too much of a problem for me because most of my riding is in London, so you can probably get 10-20 miles when the fuel light's on constantly, and you're never really that far from a petrol station. Maybe if we're doing more touring, you have to be a little bit more thoughtful about how you plan your route to make sure you're going to be able to pick up fuel. You can usually estimate how much you're going to get out of a tank and reset your trip counter, but sometimes if you forget to do it, it's a bit of a guessing game. Second thing that's kind of related is there's no gear indicator as well. It's not the end of the world, and generally you should have a good feel for it. Every now and again it's nice to be able to glance down and see that. So third thing is that I don't think the finish is particularly good on the frame. Anywhere where it's painted gold, it seems pretty thin, and you can see lots of places where it's just chipped off quite easily and started to rust in places, like under there. And I keep cleaning it up and polishing it up, but I think that is just a fact of life, especially on the swing arm where you get a lot of spray down there. I've put a hugger on to try and prevent that, but really there's not a great deal you can do. Also, the finish on the engine is sort of bubbling a bit, and starting to pit, which probably happens on a lot of bikes with a sort of painted engine like that, but it's a little bit hard to keep on top of. Fourth thing is the gearbox is fine, but it sometimes is a little bit fiddly to get it into gear, so when you're clicking down into first, sometimes it gets a little bit stuck between neutral and first, or second into neutral, as it's a little bit wishy-washy, and also it's a little bit clunky through the gears, so sometimes that's quite nice, a reassuring mechanical thud. But other bikes that I've ridden have definitely had a much smoother gearbox. Number 5 is that it does vibrate quite a lot as well, it being a twin, and it's not that noticeable at relatively low revs or low speed, but as soon as you pick it up, you can definitely feel it coming through the bike. Which leads me on to 6, which is, and I think this is the case on the later models, the foot pegs could do with a little bit of rubber damping on there. They're a bit basic, these. Maybe some people prefer these, but certainly when it's such a vibey engine, I think rubber ones would help just add a little bit of comfort. I'm sure I could swap them out, but I haven't got around to it yet. Indicate fuel, gear. My 7th thing that I'm not that keen on is this kind of front end. Like, just stylistically, I don't think it looks that great. This clock mounted on top there, I just think looks a bit peculiar, and then the long headlight, not a huge fan of that either. Maybe the more classic style round headlight would look better, or I don't know what it is about it, but it's not quite my thing. Number 8 is that at about 3,000 or 4,000 revs, this clock cluster makes a fairly horrible rattling, vibrating noise, and this can be fixed, definitely. You just have to take it apart and put it back together with some sort of rubber padding in the right spots, but it's a bit of a hassle that I haven't got round to yet, and it's just a bit of a shame that you have to even do that. Number 9 is the I'm not that keen on the styling of this as well. Maybe when they first released it, this is 2006, it looked fine, but nowadays I think that sort of, I don't know what to say, sculpted sweeping thing looks a little bit dated, and perhaps something with straight lines might have looked a little bit better. Big old unit that, isn't it? I think I'm on to number 10 now. I'm struggling a bit though, because generally it's a pretty great bike and serves its purpose. So oh, the sound of it isn't amazing. I mean, just sounds a little bit like a tractor, really. It's not that nice V-twin sound that you might get from a bike in a similar price range and category, like the SV650 or something. Similar bike, similar price target, sort of similar market, but I've tried one and I've heard a few sort of around town, and they sound pretty good, whereas this is a bit of a tractor sound, and you could put a different pipe on it, like that's the standard one. But even ER-6Ns of this era that I've seen there's a guy sort of commutes on my route, and he's got almost exactly the same bike, and it's I don't know what it is, a Scorpion or something, and sounds better, but it's just the same sound but a bit louder, really. Not a massive improvement, but it's not a big deal to me. I mean, that's not really what I bought the bike for. So there's 10 things. Don't want to sound like I hate this bike, because it's pretty great. I really enjoy riding it, and I've also made a video about the 10 things that I really like about it, so be sure to check that out. Anyway, if you've got any questions about this bike, leave them in the comments below, and if you want to see more videos like this, click subscribe.